Trust me.
Say.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't be needed in the worst kind of way.
Six o'clock. All right, 6 o'clock, we're gonna call the meeting to order.
Jason Hance.
Here.
Valerie Peacock. Here. Vicki Wilson. Here. Cheryl Taylor West. Here. Sam Pierce.
Here.
All members are present, we have a quorum.
Line item 3, invocation. God, you are the builder of all things. Please guide us in this meeting. Help us come up with the effective strategies that can enable us to move forward as a team in a meaningful way. Help us to generate good plans that are practical, sustainable, and easily implemented. Guide us toward the best way to take action and to accomplish our goals. Help us to tackle all the topics we need to discuss. Come up with excellent solutions and leave this meeting inspired and on time. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Line item 5, public comments and receipt of petitions. At this time, anyone will be allowed to speak on any matter other than personnel matters. Any matter not specifically listed for public hearing elsewhere on the agenda or matters under litigation for a length of time not to exceed 4 minutes. No council, board discussion, or action may take place on this matter until such matter has been placed on an agenda and posted in accordance with the law Texas Government Code Section 551.042. We have Amy Teal. If you can state your name and address, please.
Amy Teal, 1127 East Jefferson, here in Whitney.
You push that button, ma'am. Is it red? There you go.
Green. They win. Now. I was out of town visiting my brother during the last meeting, but we were able to watch via the live stream. He's a retired U.S. Marine Corps major with a Purple Heart, several tours in the Middle East, a bunch of other decorations, not an anarchist, and he had some pointed thoughts on what he saw play out here in the little town of Whitney. Mainly that those proposed changes did not enhance the community, they encroach and encumber it. Some wondered why the assassination of a healthcare executive has been celebrated, but they don't seem to realize that it was not an anarchist who historically noted those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. While I did not support that assassination, I have warned in my public testimonies for over a decade now a key historical reality. As government regulations tighten their grip around people's life, liberty, and property, communities are destined to explode, and these are never shaped charges. Politics has always been polarizing. We have been living in a world where throughout history, reasonable men have felt compelled to do unreasonable things. A time where those who value rights over rulers are the ones pointing out that state law does not mandate any zones, penalties, permits, applications, or restrictions. A world where anarchists are the ones citing state law to preserve the liberties we have left, while those who allegedly took an oath to defend our rights are pushing for the wholly unnecessary maximum restrictions, permits, processes, and penalties that they can impose on everyone around them, or as Bastiat calls it, plunder. We live in a world where those who claim to be public servants seem gobsmacked that residents would dare to utilize the judicial system to defend their rights from local tyrannies, but those same public servants jump at the chance to weaponize code enforcement and stick the teeth of police powers on people over trash in the yard, brush, vehicles, weeds, 6 inches high, life. Up is down, down is up. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. We must restrict rights to protect them. Back in 1985, that's over 38 years ago, there was no zoning map, tax bills were lower, animals were not registered, and city business was largely handled on a case-by-case basis. Home occupations, as already allowed in the ordinance text of SF1 properties and never spelled out in the verbiage for agricultural zones, have been occurring this entire time as a natural, customary use of property. And people were very welcoming. Fast forward to the 21st century with increased taxes, zoning, and pointed attacks to restrict home-based businesses via application, permit, and authorized fees, and suddenly that welcoming atmosphere seems to be slipping away. Go figure. Reasons? Some people's sole purpose in life is to serve as a warning for others. Be the reason that people who have lived in Whitney longer than you have all been alive aren't forced to sell their property and leave. The zoning ordinance expressly allowed customary home occupations, yet instead of deciding to correct the blatant error in the chart and simply adding that phrase to every other zone with a home, y'all decided to not just wallow in error, but double down on it by lying to people about what was and was not allowed, why, and that you could have corrected the errors without hurting your neighbors. This May, we have a city election coming up, an election where the city violated the law by failing to post legal requirements a year in advance. And it's that dang anarchist pointing it out, not our public servants.
Thank you. Line item 6, or on the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion. Should a council member desire discussion of any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Line item 6, act on and approving regular city council meeting minutes on December 19, 2024. Line item 7, act on approving the City of Whitney expense reports and register report for December 2024.
Motion to approve.
A second. All in favor?
Is that coming through that speaker? Can y'all hear it?
So they're not turning their mics on.
It's on. It's not coming through.
I'm hearing now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can y'all hear that?
I can
No,
hear
there
you.
you go.
Okay, department reports, mayor report, update on city projects and properties. I'm happy to announce that my team has completed the 2023 audits in just 1 month, and our 2024 audit is already underway. This is exciting news for us because our financial audit system had problems in the past and we fell behind. When I became mayor, we were 3 years behind in audits. I prioritized fixing these issues and my team has worked hard to streamline our audit process. Previously, our audit failures and delays prevented us from applying for outside funding. We've implemented measures to ensure our city stays compliant with audit requirements. Why is this important? Because this is how we repair Whitney. We must have outside funding to address repairing roads, wastewater plants, and drainage issues. Thanks to the new audit process, we are up to date and last fall, my administration was able to start applying for grants again. Today, I'm thrilled to announce that we have received a grant for $750,000, the first outside funding for infrastructure in 5 years. To ensure we use the money in the best way possible, we will hold a public hearing on January 30th. I encourage everyone to come and share their ideas on how we can use these funds to repair Whitney. I'm also working on many other funding areas. We have our first meeting tomorrow with an engineering firm to apply for the Texas Water Development Board programs that could help us finance a new water treatment plant for Whitney. We've also made traction on my City Park project. We've received a generous donation of $10,000 to support the initiative. Through our application for the T-Mobile grant and the Texas Parks grant was not approved at this time, but we are continuing to apply for more. Furthermore, the Lake Whitney Area Lions Club has generously agreed to oversee the City Park project. They formed a committee dedicated to bringing this project to life, and we are extremely grateful to the Lions Club support and excited to see the process that they make. We have also completed the purchase of the historic Cato building. When the opportunity arose for the city to acquire the Cato building, we pursued a negotiation with the property owners. We were uncertain of the future of this building and the despair of the building. We decided the history of this building was something that we wanted to maintain for the future of our city. We have not decided what we want to do with this building. Whatever we do, we want to make sure the rich history of the Cato building remains what it is and is not forgotten. After all the inspections, we will have a better idea of what we're going to do with the building, and then we can move forward with our project. Administration report.
Okay, yes, it's working. All right, so this water billing cycle was the first cycle that the new system was implemented. We wanted to, again, we've said at several meetings that the new rates that the council voted for in October would be on this bill. We intentionally waited until after the holidays to implement those rates. However, we identified an error in the way the ordinance was written versus what was in the billing system. So in the billing system, the ascending rate scale was still in there, which we all talked about and voted for, but the ordinance itself did not have the ascending rate scale. But the ordinance also did not address, or the billing system still had the 2,000 gallon minimum in there. So the way the water billing used to work is it was 1,000, you had 2,000 gallons factored into your base rate. The ordinance took that out. So you're billed for every 1,000 gallons. So the two kind of washed themselves, because the only person that would really have any type of an effect on the ascending scale would be those that are using well over 5,000 gallons, because that's when the scale would have went up or more. So I say this to say that if you have a question about your water bill, about the ascending rate scale versus the 2,000 gallon minimum, call City Hall, let them work through it and see. However, we are going to adhere, and now the water billing system is as the ordinance is written. So there will not be an ascending rate scale anymore. This is what was passed, this is what will be billed. It is our law. There will be no more base minimum. So at 1,000 gallons, you get charged $3.80 whatever cents. I didn't have my glasses on, sorry.
386.
Yeah, $3.86 per 1,000 gallons. It stays at that rate now instead of going up. It used to go up every 5,000 gallons. So your base rates are the same. And again, I want to reiterate, the city has not had a rate increase since 2016. Chlorine alone has gone up 233% since 2019. And the city could not financially continue to eat those costs. I'm sorry it happened. 2016 to 2024 is a long time to not have a water rate increase. And if you look at your neighbors, we are still well below what most people pay for water. So, going forward, we're confident everything's going to be correct. Bills should be going out on time now. I have stressed that they will be out on time, and if there's any reason they will not be out on time, I am to be made aware of why. So, we should have all that ironed out. Thank you.
Department of Emergency Services, Robert.
Honorable Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity. This month was fairly, busy on the EMS side. We actually ran 44 calls. 33 were transport to the hospitals. 8 were non-transports, and then we had 3 others, non-disposition or no patients. Of those calls, 5 calls were in the county, covering from, Fairplot, when they didn't have an ambulance available. And the average response time was 6 minutes and 15 seconds. A lot of that is due to the county calls that we run. We will be doing a CPR class this coming, the first, Saturday in February the 1st, from 10 to 1, here at the library. And that's the continued, community resource outreach that we're doing with, Brazos Valley Fire Training and with EMS. We've also combined the two, Whitney and Fire together. The ambulance crews are now coming up and helping the fire department, checking trucks. They're also gonna help us with fire inspections, actually safety surveys and stuff like that. On the fire side, we ran 74 calls. 9 calls were fire calls in the city, and there were 9 fire calls out in the county. 2 big fires out in the county that we assisted. We also ran 22 first responder calls here in the city and 34 first responder calls out in the county. We're also starting the fire inspection. I'm gonna change it to fire, safety survey, because everybody thinks inspections gets all nervous, so we're gonna call them the safety survey. We've divided the city into 6 sections, so throughout this year, we'll be hitting the section. The first sections that we are going to be hitting, and I'm gonna start making phone calls next week, is North Brazos, the businesses on North Brazos. And then we'll end up in the summer, hitting all the schools once the schools are out. And that will finalize it. All the business will be done by mid-summer. And again, like I said, the ambulance crews are, gonna go and help us do these fire inspections and stuff like that. Any questions?
Thank you. Police Department and code compliance, Chief.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. December, the police department responded to approximately 171 incidents, calls for services, involving services, motor vehicle crashes, welfare concerns. We made a total of 3 arrests, and then completed 40 traffic stops, including 47 citations on warnings. One of our primary calls we responded to last month was a shots fired call to a local apartment complex. Officers arrived on scene, the suspect had left. We ended up locating the suspect inside a restaurant here in town, who was hiding inside a closet. We located a firearm in the public bathroom as well that had been destroyed by the suspect, so we were able to get that. And we also recovered some narcotics as well. The subject was now in custody. He had an outstanding parole warrant, actually out of Ohio for aggravated robbery. So we're happy to get him off the streets here in the city of Whitney. Also, the new Chevy Malibus are up and good to go. We've been currently using them in the fleet. Everything's working great on them, and they did a great job with the upfitters. Also, we are down a few patrol officers right now, just for personal reasons. We currently have open positions. Luckily, we've had a lot of applicants put in for it. Currently working on backgrounds right now, and hopefully have I guess a resolution of that here in the near future. The other thing I'm working on also is with the annual T-Cole racial profiling reports required. My goal is to have that to you next month at the next council meeting as required by the state. I'm gonna let Drew go to the plan.
For the month of December, we had a total of 12 cases open. Currently at this time, we still have 8 of those cases open. 4 of them were closed. And on the animal control side, we only had 1 animal that was 2. After that. 2 dogs impounded, 1 was returned. I still have 1 in my care that is up for adoption at this time. And then you have a breakdown of overall cases.
Thank you. Public Works report.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. For December, we had 4 water leaks, which were not too bad. High school and North Master Street lift stations both ended up going down. This old pumps the high school lift station is. We started our 2-inch meter replacements, which would include the high schools and the schools, which we tried to complete over the holidays, just to keep them going down. Children like water for some reason. And the mayor beat me to the parks update, which I'd like to thank you for that and all your help with that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Library,
Mayor, can I add something to the conservation note this time? Thank you.
library report.
Greetings, Mayor, Council, and community. Thank you for this time. December 2024, your library was a month of growth and connection. We had 21 new library cards issued, 40 patrons daily on average. That's nearly 800 in December with a short month with holidays. A very interesting increase is 133% increase in our Facebook followers, which is 30 days. I attribute that to our focused communication strategy combining social media and printed news. We currently have over 12,000 physical materials out on loan, not counting the free audiobooks and ebooks available through our Boundless app, which is also free and accessible to anyone with a library card. Our 2024 milestones, for the first time since 2020, we circulated over 10,000 physical items in a year. So our goal this year is to get beyond that number. This year's top borrower checked out 234 books. That's an average of 4.5 books a week. The next two runners up borrowed 155 and 157 items. These numbers reflect more than circulation. For example, our most popular title was The Women by Kristen Hanna, checked out 26 times. That represents connections and conversations happening in the community. Books spark discussion, which strengthen those ties. We're focused on strengthening our community connections this year with new additions, more books, new volunteers, and engaging storytime readers. We have new clubs. The chess club started on the 7th, and it had a very large turnout. We have a Hill County Writers Club highlighting local talented authors. Our community partnerships are coming forward. We have a Learn to Sew class coming up, community volunteers for storytime. We're working on a resume workshop in February, partner with the Chamber of Commerce and Workforce, and a job fair coming in April, which will include resources for childcare and transportation, which addresses the barriers to employment in our community. We're excited about these opportunities to grow, and thank you. I'll see you at the library.
Thank you.
Thank you. Regular agenda, line item 8, deliberate and act on ordinance providing for vacation, abandonment, and relinquishment of right-of-way comprising portions of St. Jacinto Avenue, unopened, Harrison Avenue, unopened, and Jackson Avenue, unopened in the Lakeview Edition containing .582 acres of land and dedication of a 15-foot strip of land for utilities in Block 8, adjacent to Blocks 10 and 13, and adjacent to the north line of Blocks 12 and 13 in the Lakeview Edition containing .285 acres of land, property ID 144985, generally located at 605 South Bosque, State Highway 22.
Council, the supplemental ordinance was provided to you. There was an error in the first one. Our council got it to us as quick as they could for your review. I believe you had that in almost Monday probably to review. This is the formality of closing what we talked about last time for Mr. Otten inside the storage building place. We have received this petition for abandonment, and we're gonna have to make a little correction to the legal description on that, but so far we have everything we need, and Mr. Otten is very well aware that he is not only paying the city for the real value of the land, but also any fees associated that the city has incurred during this process.
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All yes. Motion passes.
Line item 9, deliberate, act, or give guidance regarding signage for urgent care, 200 North San Jacinto Street, Whitney, Texas, 76692.
Would you like to speak?
I'm pretty sure most people here are probably familiar with the urgent care in town. Who's used it before? Raise your hands. Most people in this room are probably more educated than, or at least aware of what's going on in the city. For our perspective, so we, if you don't know me, I have the urgent care both here in Whitney as well as the one in Hillsborough. We have a series of patients that are constantly coming over to the Hillsborough location who have legitimately no idea that there is Whitney. They cannot find the Whitney location. And our Whitney urgent care underperforms comparison to the Hillsborough one by almost a third, at least a half every single day. For someone as a business owner like myself, I mean, I don't operate for free as much as I would like to be someone who helps the community. There's costs associated with my business. Running my Whitney location is the exact same cost as running my Hillsborough location. My staffing, my rent, my charges to myself. But ultimately, if my Whitney location is underperforming by a third to a quarter many times, that puts numbers in my face. So I'm turning to the city to be able to assist in even the smallest of manner. Every single patient that walks in through our door that's a new patient, we always ask them, how did you hear about us? Most common answers are always going to be Google or drive-by. With where we are positioned in the city of Whitney, while it is a relatively busy road, it is not a main road. And you can all sit here and agree. So what their ask is to the city is that if you want to keep this urgent care, AKA you would like to keep the closest thing we have to a hospital as of right now, there needs to be some level of support, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for me to be operating a business at a loss, not at this current time. So, you knowing that Jefferson is a main road, the ask is to be able to put some type of main sign that at least helps direct and say, urgent care, this direction, considering in lieu that we do not have a hospital. If a hospital over in place, it's closer to be able to say the ask is no, but we do not have one, and there's no line of sight of us putting a hospital anytime soon. So, whether it be Jefferson, other places in the city, that the city has land in that we cannot put private signage in, that would be hopefully be able to help to some degree. No one's saying that that's going to be the miracle turn. No one is saying that that's suddenly going to double or triple the numbers. But to be able to offset that gap even a little bit can drive the argument to try to keep the urgent care in place right now.
Where is it you want to put the sign?
So, close to where either Texas, New Mexico is, like right off of San Jacinto, at least putting something over there, or even when we talk about the V, it doesn't have to, one is great, two even better. Where we have the V that splits the city, there's so many folks who never even take that right. So they'll just go left and their entire world is on the left. So to be able to put something at that V that says urgent care off of Trinity, or within the city center, whatever we think is logical, but be able to help folks at least understand where we are. I mean, the fact that I was sitting in Hillsborough today and I had 2 patients just in the 4 hours I was there, came from the city of Whitney, their exact argument was they had no idea there was urgent care there. I mean, it's an ongoing problem. And like I said, I can't operate a business seeing 1/3 of the patients. Hillsborough's newer too.
Council, I've provided the email chain between us and the mayor. You read my deal, but I'll make my expression known. The conversation in there is obviously urgent care is a for-profit business, and we have other clinics in town. I don't understand paying with taxpayer money not to advertise for everybody. Now, obviously, she does have different services and have different hours, but I don't know for a profit business how the city can say that. Now, the city has offered support through a 380 agreement for 5 years with 0 taxes for urgent care. So they have provided support, so I want to make that very clear as well. Also, by her own admission, she's put signage up on San Jacinto and it didn't work. My recommendation was an aggressive marketing campaign, because people didn't have a problem finding it in 2020 when there were lines wrapped down the street for COVID testing. So what's changed?
Am I allowed to respond to that?
Absolutely.
So, let's go into all the arguments that you just said. An aggressive marketing campaign, we've already done it. You don't know that, we put ourselves in the newspaper, we put ourselves on the radio, we have put ourselves all over Facebook. I mean, you give me, if you would like to suggest something on marketing that I am not doing, that you think may reach, I've hired 2 marketing people, we sit tables at multiple events. So I'd love a suggestion on what I could be doing differently, because I'm putting every best effort into it. But San Jacinto, we built a directory sign onto there. Like I said, there's many people that don't even get that side. an indication that like, there is room to be able to redirect at least some of that traffic. And the last part, what did you say, what did you say?
We talked, I said that we have offered support through a 380 agreement.
Profit. Well,
And for profit.
so, yes, there's currently a tax abatement in place, that gives me $2,000. My annual operational cost to be able to run a single urgent care is upwards of $1 million. So while $1,000 or $2,000 is great and helpful, that's not turning around my business. The city, I mean, a for-profit business, sure, but an urgent care is going to be entirely different than a coffee shop or any other business. I'm not denying that there's not other medical business in place, but anyone who's been in the city knows Dr. Henderson, Dr. Pickering's office, they've been here from the get-go. People have a strong understanding of who they are and what they have to offer. If you take away urgent care in the context of what you have today, you have no place for any of your sick patients to go locally. You have no place if they get a laceration, an x-ray. It's not equitable to be able to say it's like every other business in town. When you look at a city, any person who moves into a city, you look at some of the key aspects. What's their education like? What is their housing like? What is their food availability like? What is their health care like? You take away urgent care, okay, closest to a hospital, all you are left with from a sick visit, regular visit, are the two primary cares. And you guys have you've been to these primary cares before. You know it's not easy to get into, especially when we're talking about sick season, weekends, evening hours.
I'm sorry, so the last thing, my last question to you was, what's changed from 2024, 2025 now that nobody can find you from 2020 when the lines of cars were wrapped all the way around the streets? In fact, the city helped with parking at that point too. So what's changed from 2020 to 2024 when people had no problem finding you with no signage till now?
During the pandemic, everyone was visiting us every 2-3 days. I don't feel well today. I mean, you have repeat customers left, right, and center. It was a global pandemic. It is completely different. I mean, I still am suffering consequences of that, where we have multiple patients who say, oh, you're just a COVID testing center, because they have no understanding of necessarily what we even do. So, a COVID, when everyone was searching for information, employers were forcing their employees to go to certain places, we were looking at completely different circumstances. And a pandemic doesn't mean that people hadn't even an understanding of who we are, or what we were doing, or what we were looking at. People were just generating lines. And it does help. In fact, that's the effect of visual importance, is when everyone is seeing lines throughout the door, there were eyes drawing of what does that place have to offer? What are they doing? There's a visual calculus to all of this. And again, it was a global pandemic.
But people found you.
Sure, the same 100 people we were seeing every 3 days. I guess at the end of the day, you guys need to think, if you took urgent care out of the context, do you think your healthcare ecosystem would be as supported as it is today? And what did the loss of the hospital play on the folks back then? Did it affect their ability to get care?
I support all three businesses in this town, and I've been at yours, I've been at the others. And in my opinion, we need all of them. And I do support it, but we can't do one for the other. But my deal is, it's something that I have that is a question for somebody else that might know more than I do. But when you're talking about putting up signs and stuff, you're also talking about two state streets. They're two state highways, no matter what. The city does not own them two roads. So, what I'm trying to say, the state always helps hospitals, clinics, and all that for those signs. You gotta get it approved through the state on their highways. And they will help you and assist you to get that taken care of. The only reason why I know that is because I did have family members who used to be engineers. But, that's not a city street, guys. Even though it goes downtown Whitney, it's not a city street. So the final decision would be the state. In a sign with that. You heard me, I support all three. I'm not gonna support one, I support all three. I use all three. And I mean, I've been in yours many a times with my family. I've been out with the other two. But yes, I mean, as far as backing it, I support everything for all three. Yes, I don't wanna see none of y'all. I wish y'all the best. But being a state street, I think the first step is talk to the state and see what all needs to be done or what they can do for it.
But the conversation doesn't just have to be limited to those places, right? So there are city property too, like in different areas that at least could elicit some level of support to be able to do this. So to your point, yes, I mean, and that's news to me, that information, but that doesn't preclude that the city could offer some level of assistance and at least sit down and open that conversation and say, are there places that possibly could help? And I agree with you, right? Like, I'm not detracting the importance of Henderson, Pickering,
No.
or any of the other medical businesses that we have. But the conversation is ensured that because they've been here for so long, because they have such a stronghold, people are well aware of them, and they are not operating at a loss, nor are they suffering in any way, and debating whether to open doors. In fact, I had a former employee, or had a colleague, post on Hill County Rant Road. I'm sure many of you have heard that for just to be able to post, say like, hey, I have a sick kid in Whitney, where do I go? Because it was I was polling, do people know where to go? And they said, I have a sick kid who has Medicaid, where should I go? In that post, I mean, many would just say your primary care, but obviously someone who's coming out that post isn't gonna offer that, that person knows that. Less than 50% of the people responded to urgent care, which was shocking to me because I at least expected 60-70%. But that showed me how bleak the market is. And again, it's from no loss of time. You wanna give me a marketing plan? Sure, by God, help me with the marketing plan. Because I've done everything I can in my wheelhouse.
So I guess what we need to make clear here is what is your ask of the city? Are you looking for city property to put this on? Are you looking for the city to pay for the signage? What is the actual ask of the city?
I'll take city property. I'll build a sign myself. They're not that expensive. But I need to be able to at least get some better visibility type road. I can't put it on state, so I did think initially where I was thinking was probably the state line, but if the city owns more property than I do, I have that one single property. So I'm asking for the property, I'll cover the cost. Your dollars is zero.
Jefferson, Bosque, Brazos, Colorado, all those are state maintained. Those are all your in and out avenues of the city. So any of those you would need to go to the state for.
I do, so, again, I would have to look at where the map draws between city and state, because you know better than I do. But there's probably got to be some level of city roads, like, I mean, heck, even where the city chamber of commerce is, I'm not gonna take over that property, but that's a good intersection over there. So even if there's a tiny piece of land that says that we can put on just in the corner.
See, we're not trying to beat around the bush, I'm just telling you, I mean, basically the facts.
Yeah.
That is not city property. It has to get approved through the state for us to even consider to help you put up a sign, even if you were willing to pay it off. That's just like a business, they have to get it approved, just like a tin horn, they have to get it approved. We don't have no control of any of the streets that would benefit you.
But there are probably city properties, even purchased by the city, right?
I have no clue, I don't think we own
The
one.
only thing the city owns on that major thoroughfare is City Hall. That is it. We don't own anything towards Hillsborough, we don't own anything towards Waco, we don't own anything towards the north. The city owns no property along those state highways.
And putting up something like that at City Hall would be completely inappropriate.
Right, I agree with you. I'm not telling you from City Hall, I agree with you. That is too central and too city. So I'm here to be reasonable, but it's just, you guys would have to partly educate me. And the question is if anyone's even willing to sit down and say, hey, let's look at the map.
Maybe check with tech stop.
If it was me, the first place I would check to start, to be honest with you, and like I said, if we had something that would benefit you, then you'd hear something else out of it. But being a state road and everything, what I would do is go to the engineering office over in Hillsborough at TxDOT and see if you can sit down with one of them and ask them about the guidelines or what you can do. And present a sign on their right of way to help you get your business, going and everything, if that makes sense. I can't support anything that we can't stand behind. I mean,
Yeah, there's no point in doing it.
but my knowledge of or in Hillsborough, at TxDOT, and talk to an engineer and see what you can do. And to use one of their right of ways.
So I appreciate that, because that's informative. Like I said, my understanding of what's the city road versus what is
Correct.
not. But I think that one of the things that was awakening, I will say, in this conversation is how much city support can I possibly get and help. Not because I think you guys need to drive my profits, but it's an understanding of how much support can, how much can the city, how much do you guys want to offer? And so there's also been a question of creativity of like, okay, knowing this, what maybe signage isn't there, right? Maybe TxDOT says no. Are there other ways for the city to lend a hand, help? I don't know your guys' realm of control and what you guys can advertise. But even something as simple as if you guys take control of the water bill that goes out to all the residents, or a couple of times, are you guys able to, help post in there, hey, sick visit, something like this, go to the urgent care and help me get an understanding out to the population in different ways. So while signage may not be the answer or may not be plausible just based on ownership, the conversation doesn't necessarily stop here in my mind.
Another thing about going to TxDOT, excuse me, you might, instead of the big blue signs with the H on them, you might ask them to put up a sign, urgent care.
Right. And that was kind of the original ask coming into this, was because there is not a hospital, and only because there is not a hospital, could we have put something on Jefferson that said urgent care that way? It was just another remembrance to, there is even that building here. So that was the original ask, actually.
Just real quick, having been an employee that did PR for water utilities in another municipality, we did used to put a lot of promotional literature in our water bills. Too many people now pay online and never ever open a water bill. I don't know how many of y'all actually open and read your water bills anymore. That used to be a good communication piece, but not so much anymore. And also, only the bill payer is the one that's gonna see that. Usually they're not gonna pass it around at mealtime and everybody look at it. Another idea is magnets. Magnets that go on refrigerators that might have something.
Every patient who leaves our place gets a magnet, and then we've actually done an every door direct, in which I pay the post office to actually send out my flyer with a magnet. So when I say I'm not short on trying, I am not. But I appreciate your idea. Let me put it also, let me take all that back and say, I appreciate that, because that's what I'm asking. When I approached the city, I said, can you guys help in any way? And not tell me I just need an aggressive marketing strategy, because that's what I think I'm doing.
Well, let me just add real quick, in doing the PR stuff for the water utilities, city of another city, very seldom would we let anybody do promotional things outside of the city. We didn't let other businesses come in and use our utility bill to communicate their business. Does that make sense to everybody? We stuck with city-related matters, so I'm just passing that along.
And if I can add, have you, the businesses to your north, the other doctor's offices, and have you maybe seen about sharing the cost with them on their side and maybe absorbing some of their costs and split that side?
So, are you talking about with Dr. Pickering's office?
Sure.
Yes, but unfortunately, because they're absorbed with good old Richard,
Yeah.
it especially becomes a little bit more of a conflict of interest.
I figured, but,
Yeah, and I tried, I mean, I would knock on Texas, New Mexico's door, but they don't ever have people there, and there's not anyone for me to contact. So I tried submitting online requests, calling random corporate numbers, sending mail. And so I know there's a Church of Christ across with my next option.
Okay, so I guess
We wish you luck.
let's see how it goes. We'll take stock.
Yeah, well, and then, to your point, you don't wanna lose, and I'm not saying you drive my thing, but as the city, whether we need to independently set up time, that doesn't mean there has to be something that comes optional as a cost for you guys. But get creative and see how y'all can help, because I'm at
Item 10, deliberate and act on facility use agreement between the City of Whitney, Texas and Whitney Wildcat Football League, WWFL, and authorize the mayor to sign the same.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how much anybody follows youth sports around here, but I'll give you a quick synopsis. We used to have the WYA, which is the Whitney Youth Association, and we used to always have an agreement with them about park use for baseball. They unfortunately folded last year, and the WWFL has stepped up and kind of filled their gap. So they're asking to take over pretty much the baseball, soccer, and they'd like to take over their contract that we normally provide for use of the city park. And they do have some extended hours in here, but they also have soccer included there, which includes extended services. And they're willing to help us open the park a lot, maintaining baseball fields and all that kind of stuff.
So council, this is pretty much the exact same agreement we did with the WYA last year. It's just the name change to WWFL. Everything in yellow is kind of what changed, and we're just adding baseball, softball, soccer, and football. The agreement we had with WYA was specifically for baseball, softball. Also, there's a Scrivener's error. It should read in term of agreement February 1st, 2025 through January 31st, 2026. So if you do make the motion, please do so with that correction. Everything else is the same. This is, we want to partner with these youth groups and make sure that the city and those youth groups have great relationships. This agreement protects both the city as well as the youth group.
I make a motion. Contract they had, set their contract as what they got, follow up with
I'll
the
second.
WWFL.
Second. All in favor?
With the change from February.
Yeah, we got some
February
stuff,
first.
yeah.
Yeah, with the term ending January 31st.
Right.
Do you agree with that, Vicky?
Yes.
Sandy, agree?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Line item 11, deliberate and act on a resolution denying the increase in rates proposed by Atmos Energy Corporation in its Mid-Tex division filed on about December 16, 2024, authorizing intervention in proceedings related to Atmos Energy's application to increase rates, authorizing special counsel to represent the city in matters related to Atmos Energy's proposed increase in rates, directing Atmos to reimburse rate case expenses.
So the long and the short of this, council, is we're asking you to sign an authorization or a resolution or vote on a resolution here to allow special counsel to go to bat and not have Atmos raise the rates on our citizens. That's it in a nutshell.
I make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
There is no executive session, so item 13. Oh, adjourn at 6:49. Thank you. Excuse me, ma'am? We still have a quorum here. We can't approach the council.
I'll have to adjourn the meeting.
We did, we still have a quorum.
What? Individuals can talk to council. Council just can't talk to each other. That's what the quorum is about. So see, now that they're adjourned, they do not talk to each other. But they are. Okay, so meeting is adjourned. You're welcome to go back and watch the whole thing from the beginning. The agenda, I posted the agenda and agenda packet in the event for this, and I will drop that in the caption and down in the comments. And they're on camera talking to each other now.
Yeah.
After they've adjourned the meeting.
She just has to be a little bit of a character.
Yes.
You did really good.
The quorum rules have nothing to do with city representatives talking to the public. Nothing. Yeah, turning it off.